I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. Thank you for making us a part of your Thursday. With Paul, I'm Aaron. We'd love to hear your thoughts and comments in the Yates Flooring Center chat line at doublet973.com. You can also weigh in through the Double T 97.3 mobile app presented by Happy State Bank. I'm curious to kind of go back to the Texas Bowl from last night. Mm-hmm. You mentioned it. I mean, this Aggie squad was decimated.
Yeah.
Right? Head coach fired. Offensive coordinator left. Defensive coordinator was calling plays. Or actually, no, wasn't even. He's the D-line coach. The D-line coach was the acting head coach. Mm-hmm. They were down to their fourth-string quarterback for basically that entire game.
He actually looked pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the starter who entered the game got injured in his first play. I think broke his arm.
Yeah.
Gnarly-looking injury. I don't know that they had any scholarship cornerbacks available.
No.
They were down to 3 scholarship receivers. They only had 2 normal defensive starters. Mm-hmm. It was a mess.
Oh, yeah.
And they had a chance to tie it there at the end, right? I mean, it was an 8-point game. It was a 1-possession game there at the end, and they were throwing into the end zone as time expired. Should have had 2 plays at the end, but they screwed up somehow, spiking the football. So I guess I say all that to ask the question, are we going to overrate Oklahoma State for getting to 10 wins, for beating A&M?
I think
as time moves on and we forget about the nitty-gritty of this game, and everyone will.
Yeah, they will.
Right? You'll look back and go, oh, they beat A&M. They beat an SEC team that's recruited well and didn't have their head coach, but still. I mean, they scored 7 points in the second half.
I know.
It shouldn't be that way, right? Like A&M was down 24-6 at the halftime break, right? Mm-hmm. They're decimated. They have nobody. Their starting quarterback for the game is out. You know, they're 2 quarters away from being done with the season so that Elijah Robinson can go to Syracuse and all these other places. Coaches can scatter across the country. Mm-hmm. And they put up a fight. Like, kudos to them. No cap. I mean, 17 points. Marcel Reed did a pretty good job, I think. A great job considering the circumstances.
Yeah, I would say.
The poke should have been better.
It really should have been. And I mean, I think that was kind of a little bit of what I was maybe alluding to too, with some of the throws that Bowman took that he probably didn't need to do.
Their offense was, hey, let's throw it deep.
Exactly.
And
see
hope
what
for
happens.
A PI or our guy will beat their walk-on corners for a jump ball. And they did. Kudos to them.
Absolutely.
We didn't see any of that really this year at Texas Tech.
No.
And they won the game. I'm not trying to
sure,
dunk on them. I'm just saying, are we going to overrate them as a result?
Unfortunately, I think that will happen. It will be a stat line that people look at, and versus actually going back and breaking down the film and looking to see, okay, well, what did that matchup look like in the secondary? You had, obviously they've got some good sized receivers for Oklahoma State. I'm definitely not going to knock them for that, and they used the best of their ability to make some catches last night that were pretty phenomenal. But you outclassed them in that.
It's hard to duplicate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Game after game.
Right. Yeah, you can't do that. Even in the newly restructured Big 12, which we'll have next year with 16 teams, and you can't duplicate that. There's no scenario that plays out that way. But unfortunately, and we've seen this the last few years, I think you're going to see quite a bit more of this when it rolls around to bowl season, and you have teams that aren't playing for a national championship. Next year it'll be 12 teams. If you're not one of those 12 or those other bowl games, are you going to see massive defection and lots of other kids that go, you know what, I'm good. I'm not going to play in this game, or declare for the NFL draft. It wouldn't shock me if we didn't see a big trend of this. So I think what we saw out of A&M might be just a sign of things to come in the next few years, and at least outside of your New York Six Bowls.
We get this in the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Oklahoma State did win 10 games. That's good in any season. I agree.
Sure.
It's a
great deal.
Especially considering how down on Oklahoma State a lot of folks were, myself included. I'm lumping myself in that. For all of the transfers over the offseason.
Yes.
They exceeded expectations in a gigantic way, and they're going to get a lot of credit going into the next year, I think, in terms of preseason polls and all that stuff in the Big 12. That I'm not arguing against any of that. I think that's all factual. Mm-hmm. My question is, are we just going to overrate them as a result? Because, 4 of their 7 Big 12 wins, and then their bowl game, one score, one possession wins, right? They lost an ugly one to Oklahoma State, or to UCF rather. Yeah. They got obliterated by Texas. We're Texas in that club too. They lost to South Alabama. This is not an Oklahoma State team that is just going to overwhelm you with talent.
No,
right?
They're not. It's
going to be an out execute you win, right? Out focus, out discipline you, and it worked great this season. I just don't know that it's tough to sustain that. I think year after year, game after game. Gundy deserves a lot of credit. He's done a great job. He deserves benefit of the doubt. I think that they will be good next year. Don't get it wrong.
Yeah, no.
But I think we're all going to think they're going to be better than they are.
Yeah, no. Would I put them in the top third? Probably so.
Yeah, sure.
Given history, and I know we're really bad about that and say, oh, historically speaking, you've done this, and this. But from even just the eye test, I think you still would probably put them easily in the top third. But you will garner a lot more credit than you probably deserve by winning those 10 games. And that's coming from, people that cover around a program that has had very few double-digit winning seasons, and so they're nice to have. They're a nice little pad. They're something to point out to recruits and go, hey, we won 10 games last year. That says something in our league, and this was the league before we had some major shifts.
I think they do have a pretty manageable schedule for the second year in a row. They play Arkansas in Stillwater. Mm-hmm. Arkansas is a mess.
Yeah, they are.
Their road games, of which they have 4 in the Big 12. I don't know. Kansas State will be challenging, right? Mm-hmm. You'd much rather play at Cincinnati or something like that. At Baylor, at BYU, at Colorado, those are pretty choice.
Oh, for
right.
Sure.
I think most teams are picking those if they're filling out their schedule for road games. And they go to Arizona State, Utah, Tech, West Virginia, and they also go to TCU. I don't know why this is all split up like 4-1, but anyways.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird alignment, I guess, until they get some more specifics in there too.
Yeah,
so.
It's not in order, but I would think they would lump all the Big 12 road games together. Anyways, so the Mountaineers will be tough, right?
Yeah,
they won 9 games. Hopefully, Tech will be challenging. Utah, I expect, is not going to go away, but still, you get those games in Stillwater. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, we'll see what happens. This in the Yates Flooring Center chat line. AD, do you want Texas to win the national championship? Hell no. Absolutely not.
No.
I am rooting for Washington.
Yeah.
I don't know how likely that is to happen for them to win, but I'm Team Huskies.
And you're talking about with a squad like Washington that was just a score away from not playing in this college football playoff game, and then a Texas team that lost to Oklahoma. You just don't know. Just really, these are college kids. Emotions run high. We'll just kind of see what happens when they hit the field.
More Tech Talk next.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Hi there, how you going? It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Paul. I'm Aaron. We'd love to hear what you have to say on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at Double T 97.3.com. Somebody had this come in on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Any comments on TJ Shannon? We talked about at the top of the show. Right. It's not really something to discuss. Yeah. It's happened. It sucks. Hopefully, justice prevails, whatever that might be. Mm-hmm. But if you want to read about it, go to ESPN. I'm really just not here to talk about sexual assault. This on the chat line. Do you guys think that Kirby will run up the score to make a statement, or will he shut it down in the fourth? I assume you mean Kirby Smart. I don't think he'll just. What is he going to gain? Not
a whole lot. I think the actions of the players on the field will say all he needs to say. And do I think there will be opportunities for people beyond the first string and maybe beyond the second string? Yeah, I think that might happen. But no, I don't think he's checking a box off to just say, well, if we have the opportunity, let's just blow these guys out of the water. No, I think they're just going to do their game plan, win their game. Yeah, they feel shafted just like everybody else does to a certain extent, but they had the opportunity to make sure that didn't happen by beating Alabama in the SEC title game. Didn't do it. That's why they are where they are.
Have you seen how much Georgia's favored by?
I have not.
20 points.
Not surprised.
No, I'm a little bit surprised. I mean, just because
I knew it was going to be double digits, but
yeah, I mean,
but 20 is a lot. Yeah, I will agree with that. That's 20 is a lot of points. But I would say probably
it's the Orange Bowl, man. Like, you shouldn't have a 20-point spread between Power 5 teams in the Orange Bowl.
Right. But once again, that probably also goes to what we talked about earlier, and I usually wouldn't include the New Year's 6 games, but if you're not playing in that Final Four, you really don't know whether somebody's going to, give a darn whether they're going to play in a game like that or not, because they're not ultimately playing in the ultimate game. And as soon as that all happened, you kind of saw what happened with Florida State. Guys are like, okay, well, I'm good. We're not playing for a title. Oh, well.
I mean, Oregon is a smaller favorite over Liberty,
mm-hmm. Which,
than Georgia is over Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
I think you also look, and in that instance, you look at how Oregon's games turned out. I mean, you can go all the way back to your first game here in Lubbock, Texas, your second game of the season, and how close that game was. And then you saw obviously the team that beat them to get to that college football playoff game with Washington. They did what they had to do to get there. I don't know. I think Oregon played in several really close games over the course of the season, more so than a Georgia did. So I guess when it's all said and done, that's probably the reason why people will throw more respect. And then given the attitude and everything else that's gone along with Florida State, which is kind of a bit of a mess, as we talked about last time I was here with you, I don't know whether there's the incentive now to have that kind of performance. You have a chance, but I don't see it out of them.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia does not need to impress anybody.
Not at all.
It's going to get all kinds of benefit of the doubt in terms of preseason rankings and all that stuff.
They'll probably be 1 or 2 to start out the year next year.
So I think they'll play, and I don't expect them to just crawl into a hole once they're up by 3 scores or whatever it might be in the second half. But, and I think recruiting, too, there's probably some incentive there from a Georgia perspective to make sure that it's not close. Again, not embarrass Florida State.
Sure.
Not run 4 verts with 15 seconds to go. But, you recruit against Florida State if you're Georgia. Not a lot, but you do. And you were working to flip. Actually, you did. No, they did flip the Florida State commit, KJ Bolden.
Yeah, they did.
There at the end. So I would think that for sure they want to send a message, but again, not embarrass them. This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. I didn't get to say this the other day. The only reason the SEC would add Florida State is because ESPN doesn't want the Big Ten in their territory. Yeah, I don't know how much that matters.
It just, markets fluctuate. It just kind of depends on what they're looking for. It really does, and it's so funny that the television contracts and everything that goes along with those is more complicated than first appearing. I don't know. I wouldn't even pretend to know all the details involved with that and who's, okay, well, we've got this area staked out. You don't need to get into this area. But, that then it just comes down to a battle between million and billionaires for broadcast rights. I don't know. I don't know if that really will play much of a factor at all.
Yeah, I don't know that they're worried about geography.
No.
There are plenty of Big Ten fans in Florida, right? A lot of retirees that go down to
absolutely
Florida.
Quite a bit. I would venture to say, a majority of the East Coast, that is the destination retirement location is Florida. It just is. It takes like one trip there to go, oh, okay. But yeah, it wouldn't shock me at all.
This in the Yates Flooring Center chat line from our friend Michael from the ranch. Of course, Florida State recruits against Georgia. Florida State beat out Georgia and got Ron Simmons back way in the day. Yeah, it's picked up of late. 4 years ago, I don't know that it was as heated between the two programs, but Mike Norvell has that program kind of humming again. We'll see. I just don't think that geography plays a role into this. If you're ESPN2, you're also going to be bidding on the playoff when that new contract comes up. Yeah. So that's more money that you'll be spending.
Sure.
And there's a limit, I think, on what they're going to spend for college football, especially in this market. And I don't know that they're going to just break the bank for Florida State. We'll see. Do you think that we know? Let me put it this way: how much further do you expect this story to advance a year from now? Right? Not that you know anything in terms of inner workings, but would you be shocked if this story wasn't much more advanced than it is right now?
With attorneys involved, it's anybody's guess.
Yeah.
It could be over tomorrow, and then it could be over 2 or 3 years from now. It's anybody's guess. It just, who is more motivated to get things settled at this point? Is it Florida State? Is it the ACC? Is it the NCAA? Who knows? But yeah, I wouldn't put a timeline on anything. We definitely could be talking about it next year.
More tech talk next.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Paul. I'm Aaron. We'd love to hear your thoughts and comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at Double T 97.3.com. All guests appear via the Visual Edge IT hotline. It's been kind of a crummy bowl season so far for the ACC.
Yeah.
As we watch Rutgers lead Miami right now in the Pinstripe Bowl, 21-17, 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. We had that game for you on 100.7 The Score. NC State will try to carry the flag for the ACC here in a little bit when they take on Kansas State in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. But South Florida blanked Syracuse 45-0. Yeah. Georgia Tech did beat UCF, and Duke did beat Troy. USC walloped a top 15 Louisville team last night in the Holiday Bowl.
They did. I was surprised.
West Virginia dominated North Carolina.
Yes, they did.
In the Mayo Bowl. Thought Tech did beat Tulane. That's a quality win. Just a lot of average there from the ACC so far.
Yeah, no, you expected more, but especially in light of all the rumors swirling and everything else that's tied to the ACC, you would hope as a conference you wanted to show up to some of these games.
Because if this score holds, right, throw the records aside. I mean, Miami is 7-5, Rutgers is 6-6. There's not a huge difference there.
No.
Miami should never lose to Rutgers in football.
No.
It just shouldn't happen.
No.
Right? And yet here we're what, 17 minutes away from that happening? And Rutgers has the ball now. So, Louisville had a chance to get a nice win last night in the Holiday Bowl. USC was playing a backup quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
They got smoked.
Yeah, he looked great.
Six touchdown passes.
Yeah.
A USC bowl record. Syracuse couldn't score a single point against South Florida. And hell, Boston College, they won today by beating a future ACC team.
Yeah.
So even then it was kind of, I know, kind of a net zero there.
It really was. Yeah, so especially the fact that SMU was talking such a big game before that, and how exciting it's going to be to have the Ponies in the ACC, and that's not what you want to do. If you're going to talk big, you got to back it, and SMU clearly didn't do that.
No,
not at all.
Not at all. SMU to the ACC is a joke.
It is.
It is. They are the least deserving Group of Five to Power Five addition in the really since we've been tracking this stuff.
Yeah.
Their attendance numbers are embarrassing.
Oh.
Their lack of success, despite their super good location, despite how relatively weak their competition has been, despite their talent level over the last 10 years especially, is terrible. They had a good season this year. They won their conference. They were in the ACC really before all that happened, right? Like that invitation was out there more or less before that happened,
right?
It's a joke program.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I don't know if really anything else to add on that one other than it's comical when and I know a part of it still goes back to the death penalty and whether you were actually able to get everything together and function as a normal program, athletically speaking. And I think for the most part they kind of did, but you've had some opportunities. I've seen so many announcements from all these really very sought after recruits signing with SMU. Well, show me something when you get on the field. I mean, we've had some kids from here around here too that have gone to SMU to play.
Yeah.
And yeah, I want to see more on the field and the results as far as the fans not showing up for the games. Yeah, we have our share of issues from time to time, but it's never been to that magnitude. And I remember going to football games in the old Southwest Conference and going to games at SMU, and there was fans there, and easily a sellout for some of those games. Not anymore. And when you have a bowl game with two teams that really, they're two other Texas teams, but they sell it out. Not only they set a record for the year for the attendance, they were out of alcohol by the third quarter. It's just kind of mind numbing to me.
And you won 11 games.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you suffered through some kind of miserable 2-10 season. Right? Which is totally understandable. No one wants to go and watch their favorite team get their asses kicked.
No.
This is an entertainment property after all.
Absolutely. It is.
But, if you're an SMU fan, or, most SMU fans, because not everyone likes to go to games. I certainly am not, I'm certainly in that category. But, like, you would think that enough SMU fans would want to go to games to watch their conference champion team play some football, and clearly not.
Well,
why did this freeze?
And it's part of, I think a lot of that is to the, I would have to say the DFW area in general. I think it's a struggle for TCU. It's a struggle for North Texas to get fans in the stands because you have so many different competing things, and that's always been the case. But before, though, it just seemed like you still had a grasp on retaining some of those fans and getting their interest. Now you've got alumni that are contributing to, NIL. And you've probably got more of an investment now financially than you've had at any point in time. Now is the time you should show up and watch your team play, and especially when they've won 11 games.
You know what SMU football is? Because you're right, they have a lot of money. Right?
Yeah, tons of money.
They have a lot of boosters with money that are willing to spend it on their program, which is great. And Tech is lucky to have those too. SMU football is like the Saudi Arabian soccer league, right? They're pumping billions of dollars into paying all these top-flight European football players. Well, not always European, but from the European leagues, right? La Liga, EPL, etc., to come play football in Saudi Arabia for just insane salaries, hundreds of millions of dollars, and no one shows up. No one shows up.
It's not of
pumping
interest.
all this money into it. No one shows up. SMU is Saudi Arabia, bro. More Tech Talk next.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. How you going? It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. Paul, I'm Aaron. We'll have coverage coming up with Texas Tech basketball versus Sam Houston, the Bearcats. Tip-off tonight from the USA is at 7. Red Raiders just have 2 games left in their non-conference schedule. Sam Houston tonight, and then North Alabama on New Year's Day, so next Monday. And then from there, it's conference play.
Time for conference play, yeah.
Red Raiders 9-2. Only 4 teams have more losses than Tech at the moment. K-State 9-3. UCF 8-3, Oklahoma State 6-5, and West Virginia 5-7.
Wow. Yeah, we kind of knew it would be a rough year overall for West Virginia with all the turmoil that they had coming into it. But yeah, the rest of the conference looks stout, like we expected it to look coming in. I'm excited for basketball, for conference basketball season, really to get here. I think you're going to know a whole lot more about your team once that gets underway. It's, and part of it is you've got so many new pieces, and Coach McCaslin's trying to mix and match and find the right setup. You've dealt with injuries on top of that. You have guys that are kind of natural leaders on the court. You're giving them that opportunity to show that. You've got guys that you didn't know, or maybe you did know they could do what they're doing, and now they're getting a chance to show it. So I'm excited for conference season. I really am.
Paul has this. Will the bus shuttles run from soccer field parking lot to the USA this evening? If they normally do, I would guess so.
I would imagine so. Check out, if you guys check out Traffic and Parking. They usually have everything kind of laid out with exactly what you can do, where you can park. That would be my suggestion to you. I know when we have alternate plans over at the university, they try and cover everything, but Traffic and Parking usually has everything kind of up to speed on their website. So that would be my suggestion to you.
Love to get your thoughts and comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at doublet973.com. So with the Tech game tonight, are you not going to be watching bowl games this evening instead?
I'll probably go a little bit, probably flip back and forth.
I mean, the Alamo Bowl tonight should be good. I think
It should be fantastic.
Arizona and Oklahoma. It'll be the Jackson Arnold era beginning early for the Sooners.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to get a good look at that quarterback for the Wildcats, too.
It would be a great game to watch.
Noah Fifita.
You're watching your outgoing team and your incoming team to the Big 12. That would be a fun game to watch. I saw somebody post something along the lines of like, I'm going to count them both, either one as a Big 12 win.
Sure.
Which is fine. I think it's fair. That's what we're going to have next year. When we talked last time about Arizona coming into the conference and how that will look, and they should be picked up towards the top of the conference, rightly so, after what we've seen. And a win tonight against Oklahoma will go a long way towards that, kind of affirming that thought process.
Then K-State will take on NC State here in about 45 minutes or so in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. The bowl mascot for that game is supposed to be edible.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how that works yet.
I don't either. Did they chase him around? I mean,
I don't know.
Don't let him in the bleachers. I don't know. That would actually, the trophy itself is excellent with the two slots on the top of the football that have Pop-Tarts poking out. It's
I
fantastic.
like that part.
Yeah.
I think that they nailed that assignment.
Mm-hmm.
I think the rest of it is very kind of generic.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost like a wedding cake. 3-tiered. They slap some metallic Pop-Tarts on the side.
Yeah.
I think they could have done a lot better. I feel like they spent all of their creativity on the topper there.
Oh, for sure.
And again, that's cool. And then just kind of mailed in the bottom 75%.
Well, I mean, the trophy that Tech brought home from the Independence Bowl, that was gigantic. That is one of the largest trophies that I've seen for a bowl game win in a while.
Rutgers has just gone up on Miami 26-17. No, now 27-17, excuse me, with the PAT pending. So soon to be 28-17. Miami, man.
Yeah. I mean, they're kind of pretty much forcing their will on Miami right now. The Rutgers is. And they took the lead over Miami off of a blocked punt in the end zone to put themselves in that position to allow them to get to 27 now. So it looks like Rutgers they came to play.
Mario Cristobal has done a great job in recruiting at Miami, but man, that needs to show up at some point, right? They were 8th in the country last year in recruiting. They just signed, and really, I mean, obviously they're not on campus yet, but they just signed the 4th best class in the country last week. I don't know that you can manage too many more 7 and 6 seasons when you're recruiting like that.
Well, I mean, it's Texas A&M all over again, is it not? I mean, it's the same kind of deal. You recruit all these huge classes, you shell out a astronomical amount of NIL to get those kids there too, and nothing to show other than just mediocrity.
But at least A&M can say, hey, we have played in the SEC West, and so we've been playing Alabama and LSU every year on top of Auburn and Ole Miss, one of which is usually pretty decent. Whereas Miami has been
just
in a
winnable situation.
Very, very top-heavy conference.
Yeah. It's been in a winnable situation and is just not executed when the opportunity arose.
I mean, I'm fine with it. I'm not some Miami fan. I enjoy watching them lose, but boy,
Yeah, this would
like
be
you just shouldn't be losing to Rutgers.
Yeah, nothing like pooping the bed to end your football season and bring in that new year. Do what?
Poop your bed.
I probably did when I was a kid. I don't, that's not
I
recall. Or
I
want
wet
to
the bed
recall.
plenty as a kid. I don't ever remember pooping in my bed.
Yeah, the pee thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of a natural deal. Trying to figure everything out.
But yeah, I don't think I ever pooped the bed.
Yeah.
More tech talk next.
It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. Thank you for making us a part of your Thursday with Paul. I'm Aaron. We'll have coverage at that time of Texas Tech basketball as they take on Sam Houston this evening, the Bearcats. Tip off at 7 from the USA. Again, pregame coverage starting at 6 here on Double T 97.3. We'll have the Alamo Bowl at 9 tonight, Arizona and Oklahoma on 100.7 The Score. We have bowl coverage really for the rest of the day for you right now on 100.7 The Score. The Pinstripe Bowl going on right now, 28-17 Rutgers over Miami, 9:51 left to play in the fourth quarter. Pop-Tarts Bowl, NC State and Kansas State, a pair of ranked teams, is going to get underway in about 30 minutes roughly. And then again, the Alamo Bowl at 9 on 100.7 The Score. And then tomorrow, we get some biggies, kind of. You Cotton Bowl, right? Missouri and Ohio State. Buckeyes have apparently not sold out their allotment, so it'll probably be a pro-Missouri crowd there in Dallas. Sure. They're probably a bit more excited about going to the Cotton Bowl than Ohio State is. Clemson and Kentucky is an interesting kind of regional matchup tomorrow morning in the Gator Bowl. I don't know that Clemson is just jacked to be there, but still an interesting, again, regional matchup. And then Oregon State, Notre Dame in the Sun Bowl. These are two ranked teams. Oregon State has a chance to win 9 games, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And then, Notre Dame is obviously a premier opponent for them. They're a slight favorite. 6 points there are the Irish. And then the Liberty Bowl, Iowa State and Memphis. That is a home game for the Tigers.
Yeah, it is.
Still heavy underdogs, 10.5 points. The Cyclones are favored. The Cyclones are an interesting team because 7-5, not sexy. They lose to Ohio earlier in the year in Athens. They get their annual loss to Iowa.
Goodness.
But 6-3 in the Big 12, and they are within a touchdown of Kansas. They're within 10 points of Texas in Ames, and I think their quarterback, kind of defying all odds, was pretty good after their starter from last year got kind of caught up in that gambling scandal, Rocco Becht.
Yeah, that was bad.
They're going to be a team that's going to be a problem next year.
I think they will be too. I think their excellent coaching staff knows how to get their kids prepared for games of any magnitude, and really probably outside of Oklahoma gave Texas one of its best runs of the year as far as an opportunity to get the upset there. And yeah, I would I always approach Iowa State with that kind of a degree of trepidation because you're kind of worried. You always have those visions of Seneca Wallace dancing in your head, so to speak, and that that creates problems for anybody. But yeah, I think that's one that once again, that's another team that it would not shock me whatsoever in the new alignment of the Big 12 if they're not somewhere in the top third of the conference.
Speaking of the playoff, I would say I was shocked to see this, or at least at the very least surprised. Alabama has more former 5-stars on its roster right now than Texas, Michigan, and Washington combined.
Wow.
12-8. Washington has 0.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
Michigan has 2, and Texas has 6. And one of those 5 stars for Michigan is a transfer. I would have thought that it would have been closer there. I'm not surprised that Alabama has the most.
Right.
But it's not like Texas is, recruiting under some overpass with a coffee cup in their hand, begging for spare change.
But then you think about back to just a couple years ago when Texas doesn't even have a player drafted. I mean, that right there kind of tells a little bit of that tale that you did just an absolutely pathetic job of recruiting, because you completely based that on the name on the front of the jersey and not on the caliber of player on the field and the quality. And I think that probably shows that you missed the boat a few years ago, and you're still kind of trying to play that catch-up game. And if you look at the map as far as the highest rated 5-star recruit per state for this 2024 class, that person happens to be coming to this town next year, and not down to Austin. And I think that also tells a tale that most of these kids, I mean, yeah, you've got some other factors in there for Micah, but man, I think these kids, they're exploring their opportunities. Got to get them credit for that. And then you have to also give Alabama credit for just nailing it almost every single time.
Yeah, and it's like they don't have a bunch of portal guys.
No.
Right? It's like 12 5-stars and a zillion 4-stars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Like, Texas has been bad, right? Over the last 10 years, they've basically had 2 good seasons, with this one being one of them. But still, it's Texas, and they still recruit okay. I think development-wise, it's been a disaster.
Oh, yeah.
Not as much under Sark. Clearly, he has got it rolling, good fit, good coach, etc. But Tom Herman, Charlie Strong, that group was it was a waste of time.
Right.
But they still recruited well because it's Texas.
Yeah.
And for them to only, again, quote, only have 6 5-stars was a bit surprising to me.
Well, in a state as vast as Texas, I think that's the other problem. They really counted on that name on the front of the jersey meaning something to kids in the state of Texas a lot more than I think it did, and not actually being active enough to go and have those conversations with the high school coaches and having the conversations with the parents as much as they should, and just really took for granted what it meant to recruit heavy, regardless of how many stars are in front of your name in the state of Texas. That's something that I think, right, wrong, or indifferent, you're seeing more of a paradigm shift in there, and that's great, because I think that benefits everybody outside of Austin and College Station when you see more of these other programs get some of these kids that, man, I would never have pegged them to go to that university and play, but now they are, because they've got some opportunities they didn't have before. So, yeah, I think it's cool. But yeah, it does really speak to the power of Alabama. And as we had talked about last time I was on, about how many 5-star and 4-stars were in the portal for Georgia as well. I mean, it kind of puts perspective on what those 2 programs very specifically have been able to do over the course of the last several years.
I think, too, that the portal and how widespread these transfers have become, especially if you're going to take away restrictions on second-time transfers. Because if that remained in place, or when that was in place, there was at least some level of caution with transferring, because you knew that, hey, if I go here and I don't like it, I'm stuck.
Yeah.
I'm
not going anywhere.
But now that fear is no longer there. I mean, the 2022 class that A&M signed that was, I think, number 1 in the country.
Yeah, it was.
I think half those guys are gone. And again, they signed a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess 2 years ago. It makes me wonder how we evaluate busts and misses will change, because listen, a change of scenery is not always good.
No.
And the grass is not always greener. Just whatever kind of saying you want to throw in there. And so now I think we're going to have more 5-stars that don't end up panning out.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
This has been the Tech Talk Podcast, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Check out our library of Double T 97.3 podcasts at doublet97.3.com.